again, all of the wise good students. We are here to listen to another chapel time teaching. Now, let me have you think about this, and I hope that you will not only learn but also grow with this. Leaders are always present in guiding, and that is actually true. In fact, all of us have grown to the fact that we have leaders in our lives. Wala sa atin ditong lumaki na walang nag-lead o nag-guide man lang sa kanya. And honestly speaking, the teachers, first leaders that we have are our parents, number one, and our teachers. They were the first leaders that we have encountered in all our lives. Sa totoo lang, marami sila that is part of our life. Pero, number one pa rin si Mommy and Daddy in leading us. And number two ay ang ating mga teacher. So let me zoom down to the teacher. Because the teacher is also our leader in our life. I would like you to watch this video.
Wala, huwag niyong kakalimutan yung gamot niya, ha? Bibili ulit ako mamaya. Sige po, ano na ako? Good morning, class. Okay, so ito na ang test results ninyo. Alvarez, Castro, Cuenco. Sabi sa'yo, kaya mo yan eh. Teacher.
The teachers change lives as well as our parents. And they are what we call leaders. So for today, we will talk about this. And that is leadership. Leadership. So many of us have been experiencing this, but I would like us to learn what leadership is first to all of us. Now, this definition is something that I've encountered years ago, and I would like you to know this definition. It's John Maxwell, one of my favorite authors in leadership. He said, leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. It is true that there are those people who we consider are our leaders, and they influence us either for the positive or for the negative. So ang leader, either positive, good, negative, bad yan. And hopefully, our parents and our teachers are all good influences for us. Now, anyone can be our leader as long as he or she is influencing us in any part of our life. It could be as simple as the movies that we watch. Diba, minsan nagsasama sa ating mga friendships or mga classmates. And then siguro, anong movie ang watch natin? Then one student or one classmate or one friend will say, let us watch Star Wars. Bigla, na-influence kayo. Nahati agad na almost 8% wanted to watch Star Wars. But actually, yung una, hindi wala pa kang decision what you will be watching. Now, a true leader helps people shine in their lives. Yun ang ginagawa ni Mommy at Daddy sa atin. Tinutulungan tayo mag-shine sa kung saan our areas of expertise are. So, marami sa atin, maybe it's in sports. Marami sa atin, maybe it's in the arts. Or even in academics. There was one student of mine in high school who said na hindi daw siya matalino. Well, I beg to disagree because there is such a thing as multiple intelligence. Here in Wise Kids, we don't see academics only as a form of intelligence. It's only one. There are so many intelligences. Maybe one of us is intelligent in arts and crafts. Maybe some of us is good in mathematics. Maybe some of us is so good with communications. So whatever your gift is, use it for yourself, for your family, and for hopefully the glory of God. Now, if you help people get what they want, Six Sigma says, they will help you get what you want. That's leadership. Sometimes on the negative, that's what people say. You scratch my back, I scratch yours. On the negative, but on the positive, the more we help others, the more that we show that we are leaders. So the heart of leadership is serving others first before yourself. And that is hard. Honestly speaking, that is hard. Mahirap talaga yun. Ulitin ko yun ha. Let me repeat what I said. The heart of leadership is serving others first before yourself. That is a practice of our life. It should be our practice. Like for example, in scouting, we have this tagline before, bayan muna bago ang sarili. And it's a good motto. And we grew up with that mentality that we wanted to serve our country also in whatever areas that we are to engage in. Now, in the Bible, there is a man who practiced his leadership. And it is a situation where it's an impossible situation. But let's look at the story of King David.
God's story, David and Goliath. So part of God's story is about the time David fought Goliath. And it begins like this. David was the youngest of 8 brothers. His job was being a shepherd, which meant he spent all day in a field watching sheep eat and roll around the grass. Meanwhile, some of his brothers were off with the Israeli army preparing for war against the Philistines. The Philistines were one of the toughest armies the people of Israel had to fight. So one day, David was taking food to his brothers because his dad asked him to. But when he got there, his brothers accused him of coming so he could watch the fight instead of the sheep. Since David knew in his heart he was just obeying his dad, he didn't mind being misunderstood. Anyway, while David was there, he saw a huge Philistine man, more than 9 feet tall, step onto the field between the 2 armies. He was wearing a thick helmet and armor and carrying huge weapons. His name was Goliath, and he was definitely used to being the winner. David found out that Goliath had been stepping onto the field like this every morning for the past 40 days and saying, "Give me a man and let us fight each other." But nobody from Israel was brave enough to fight him, even the king. Well, David didn't like that this giant was intimidating the Israelites. After all, they were God's special family. And because God was with the Israelites, they could have courage in any situation. So David, who wasn't even a soldier, told the king, "I'll fight against him." Nah, the king thought David was too small, but he really wanted someone to fight Goliath. So he gave in. And David knew he wasn't strong enough to beat Goliath by himself, but he believed God would be with him. So he said, "The Lord will rescue me from the hand of this Philistine." The king hoped David was right. He even had his own weapons and armor put on David, but they didn't fit him. David decided to go into battle in his regular clothes. That's how sure he was that God would help him. Anyway, David went to a nearby stream and chose 5 smooth stones to use with his slingshot. Then he walked onto the battlefield to meet the massive Goliath. When Goliath saw how wimpy David looked, he was furious. He thought he'd get to fight the Israelites' strongest warrior. He said to David, "Am I a dog that you come at me with sticks? I'll give your flesh to the birds and wild animals." David might have looked like a wimp, but he was actually really brave. In fact, he was so brave that when he was taking care of sheep, he fought off bears and lions. Because God helped him protect his sheep, David knew God would help him protect this special family. David said, "You come at me with a sword, but I come at you with the name of the Lord Almighty." He was explaining to Goliath that God was more powerful than anything. He also added that he would feed Goliath's flesh to the birds, which made the giant even more mad. Then David took a stone, put it in the slingshot, and slung it at Goliath. Goliath didn't even get a chance to swing a sword because the stone hit him right in the forehead and sunk in deep. He face-planted straight into the ground. Nobody could believe it. Then David ran over, took hold of the giant's sword, and drew it from the sheath. He took the sword and cut off Goliath's head. David carried the head all the way back to Jerusalem. And when the Philistine army realized Goliath was dead, they started running away like a bunch of scaredy cats. The Israelites chased the Philistines, shouting loudly. They had won. God used David, who was just an average kid, to rescue his people. And that's the story of David and Goliath. So, in case you missed it, here's the quick version. David was a shepherd. He brought his brothers lunch. He saw Goliath. Goliath scared everybody. David wasn't scared. He knew God was stronger. David fought Goliath. He used one stone. God helped him kill Goliath. The Israelites won. God's people were saved. And that's a part of God's story.
That story could be our story. In the Bible, King David was one of God's great kings, and that's a great honor. But before he started to be a king, he was just a common person, a common shepherd who was doing his best, and that opportunity opened for David to become later the king of Israel. Now, I would like to encourage each one to become a servant leader. And this is the value that we would like all wise kids to be, to lead as well as serve others. A servant leader focuses on serving others rather than serving themselves or being served by others. It's a hard thing to do. But if you do that, well, that makes you not only into a better leader, but into a better person. So coming back to John Maxwell, he said, when you decide to serve others as a leader, the team's success becomes your success. Let me repeat that. The team's success becomes your success. For all wise kids students here, do not forget that service to others is one of the values that we promote. We would like for you to serve others. Now, how do we become better servant leaders in practicing leadership, even as students? One, perform small acts of kindness. It could be any random act of kindness that you would like to do to a person. Like, for example, massage your mom or dad whenever you come home, time from break. Washing the dishes could be something of an act of kindness. I know that some of us wouldn't like to do chores, but we should try at least. Next is walk in another person's shoes. Even if malaki ang shoes niya, try mo pa rin. It means understanding. We must learn how to understand each other so that we can effectively serve each other. Like for example, yung pagluluto, cooking. Not every one of us would like to eat meat. Me, I'm a vegan, so I eat more vegetables or plant-based products. And I delight in it. Another also is something like this. Act intelligent and diligent. Not every time you will just do the action, but you also need to think before you do. But don't forget to do it diligently. For our wise kids, we thank you so much for everything that you will do. Now let me leave you with this Bible verse. First Timothy chapter 4, verse 12. Let no one put you down. Be an example in speech, conduct, in love, in faith, and purity. Yes, we don't want to put everyone down. We want to lift up everyone. Even if sometimes you don't feel that you are in good. But it's good for you so that you can serve others as well. But do not forget, be an example in these areas. The way you talk, the way you conduct yourself, the way you show love, the way you practice your faith, and the way to be purely special. So this concludes another of our chapel time. Hope that we are all in great spirits. And hopefully, we can practice leadership in practice. This is again your servant leader, Dr. Castillo, who would like to always remind everyone. Just be diligent in loving your parents, loving whatever you do, and don't forget to love God. So, muli, thank you so much, and we hope we will have another time for this discussion in our chapel. God bless you. Have a nice